Hi, guys. The level is over 6,000 at this point, and unfortunately, it's not in a good way. We'll talk about it more in a second. Welcome back from the intro, y'all. I am looking at my microphone levels, and they're really loud for some reason. Let me adjust that.
Seems normal to me.
Okay, good.
What do I know?
I was listening to the Are We Caught Up Yet? I recorded with Sam last week, and my microphone compared to his was like peaking. So I'm like just trying to be aware of it now. So I'll move away from the microphone a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Well, hello there. You are listening to No Limit, the PlayStation podcast. You can find us weekly on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. While you're over there, please subscribe to the Save the Game Media channel. If you'd rather listen to audio, we are on all of your favorite podcast services, and we would love it if you could leave us a review. It does help us grow, and we do love the feedback. If you want to support and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that is right for you. Just like our current patrons did, we've got fabulous Breanna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nicolette Knight, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Hart with the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, and the Good Sir. Again, patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia. You can join for $1. You can even do like a free 1-week trial if you want to do that as well. And yeah, also just to give you an example of us listening to suggestions. For one of the post shows, we did a miniature Barbie review, the No Limits crew did. And one of our patrons had requested that we do a full version of the review, specifically that I do. And that is now in the works. I have reached out into my network of friends to find some people to record it with. And yeah, there will be a Barbie review.
She's a Barbie girl.
Yes, if nothing else.
In a Barbie world.
It is so true.
I've never seen Barbie.
It's okay. It's okay. I think it's one of the most incredible films to ever exist, but what do I know? The voice you're hearing is Kyle. He is my co-host today. Of course, I'm Breanna. I'm sure. If you're listening to that, you know this. Or if you're listening to this, you would know that. But just in case. How are you today, Kyle?
I'm real tired. I don't know why, but I think a nap might be in order after. But we'll see.
I'm going to try and not nap today. I always nap on my weekends, and I'm going to attempt.
I think I nap every single day.
Yeah.
I generally come home from work, I take like a 2-hour nap, and then I stay up for a little bit. But it's probably not the best to do. What are you going to do?
I think my biggest problem, so I don't know if it's like that in New York as well, but in the state of California, you have to, when you're an hourly employee, you have to clock out by your 5th hour for lunch. So I have to clock out.
6th hour.
I have to clock out for lunch by basically 1:50, because you can clock in 10 minutes early. So I usually clock in at 8:50. So I have to clock out by like 1:50. And then we have hour-long lunches, and then I clock back in 2:50, right? Well, for some reason, I don't know if it's just because my body knows, but around 2:50, my body's like, it's nap time. And I'm like, damn you, I just clocked back in. So I hate it every time. Or else I probably would take naps every day. But oh well. Well, What have you been playing recently, / watching recently, / reading recently?
I haven't watched anything. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm about 20 hours in, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Terrible game then, since you've been playing it
no,
so
it's
long.
so good. Oh my god, it's so good. I hated Final Fantasy 16 because it was just so overly serious and not Final Fantasy. This is like the best return to form. It's like there's like over the top silly side quests, fun moments. The cast is just so likable. Everyone is just great. You can play as other party members. It's a crazy concept. I think maybe it might catch on. Um, I've been playing as Tifa, obviously. I don't know if anyone knows, but in 7 Remake, Tifa's like absurdly broken if you know how to combo and play her. And it's pretty much the same in Rebirth. She's just really good. She's just super fun. She's fast, which I like. Normally I play as mages, but Aerith isn't particularly fun to play as, so I'm not gonna play as her. But yeah, it's so good. I can't wait to talk about spoilers for it. I haven't had anything spoiled, and I think that's great. I mean, part of not having social media is not seeing spoilers. But man, it's easily the game and probably the game of the year so far.
Yeah, I mean, it being the game of the year so far definitely doesn't surprise me. I would say that considering like the hype factor around it and like how many good things I've heard ever since it came out, um, not surprising. And I do think that this game will probably. I know that this game will remain in Game of the Year talks throughout the year. My guess is it will be one of the games nominated for the
Yeah.
Game Awards.
Are you gonna
Especially
play it?
since we don't really know what's coming out. I will play it, but not right now because I still have to play the other one, and I've got other stuff like
Like
Dragon's
what?
Dogma.
Oh,
I have to prepare for that. No, I'm playing Death Stranding right now, which is weird.
why? You just like
I don't know.
walking and delivering babies?
You just hang out with a baby.
Oh, sorry. That's
You
less weird.
deliver dead bodies.
Yeah, this game's weird.
So much stuff has happened in this game that I can't even begin to describe, and it just keeps getting weirder.
It's probably good because I probably won't understand any of it because I didn't understand the trailer for Death Stranding 2. I've
I think that the
never
trailer is what convinced me to finally start it.
I've
And
never
then
liked and
Sam,
or played a Kojima game, so
I haven't either. I don't know if it's like a like or dislike thing. I just have never played one. I will say Sam saying that the trailer mostly made sense to him after playing the first game. I was like, there's no way. So I'm playing the game to prove him wrong.
okay. All right, you do that a
That's
lot,
all
it
I do is
seems.
I play games to spite people.
Is that
Or
all you
unless
play?
Kevin is like, hey, Breanna, I think you'd really like this game because he doesn't say that often.
I I'm gonna put Kevin on blast. Well, actually, I'm gonna put myself on blast here for a sec. Kevin's been talking about how when he's playing Rebirth, he's like the hair on Cloud just looks like a big yellow blob. He's like the textures don't look great. He's like everyone's got like what he calls Vaseline face. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about, Kevin. This is one of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen. I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely beautiful. Everyone, so I started taking like pictures on my phone and sending them to like our group chat and being like, guys, like look at this game and then tell me if anything Kevin says makes any sense. And then he started sending pictures. I'm like, that's not what the game looks like.
Oh no.
And And so I'm like, is something wrong with your TV? And he goes, no, are you playing in performance mode? I'm playing in performance mode. And I'm like, yeah, I'm playing in performance mode. Obviously, I always play in performance mode. And I think I was adamant that I was playing in performance mode for probably like 45 minutes. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go look. I've been playing in graphics mode for 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess that's why it looked so beautiful, because it just, I was on the resolution and graphic settings. But I don't know why he's playing in performance mode. His whole thing is like, well, you can't play in graphics mode. It gives me 30 FPS headaches. And I'm like, I've literally noticed nothing. Like, it looks exactly the same. It's not like I'm playing Pokemon out here on the Switch where it's like dropping to like 10, 15 frames in some areas. Um, but yeah, I just, I don't know. I think I might have been converted a little to graphics mode. If everything
Yeah,
looks this beautiful.
I think that if the game is performing well in graphics mode, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
But now to call Kevin out, he he's probably played like 10 less hours than me. But he's pretty much either caught up or like right behind me in the story, because he's just mainlining the story. And he's like, I'll do all the other stuff later. And I was just like, but you're missing all these things. I was like, you're missing like so many fun things in the game. And it just bothers me. I'm like, how can you go through the game seeing all these things on your map that you can do and not being like, oh, I gotta go do this?
Yeah, I think that. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, still.
Yeah.
Okay, I messed with one of my settings, so I wanted to make sure. I think that I I what do I don't even I'm trying to think if I play graphics modes or performance mode. I think that for the most part I play graphics mode. Um but that being said, sorry, just to get back to your point. Um I leave a lot of stuff undone, but will typically come back. But I'll try to do it. Like, so what happens is I'll typically, like, if I see something to do, I'll try to do it. And then if I get annoyed, then I'll come back. If it's not something that I can do quick and easy. But it also depends on the game. It heavily depends on the game. Like, for example, like Death Stranding, the map has like there's so much stuff to do, and there's so many like basically you have an infinite amount of deliveries that you could make. Like, they just keep generating, so it's like
Hmm.
at some point like you can't, like, even when you have
Yeah.
max compatibility rating with that person, like you'd still have deliveries. So it's like at some point like you have to stop stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think I'm probably in between you two, depending on the game. Depending on the game. Like Ghost of Tsushima, I did 100%. Like, there's like that first area before you go into the secondary part. I 100% at that first area.
I just, maybe it's just the way I play open world games, because I do it in every open world game. I do it in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the
Did
Kingdom.
you in Skyrim?
I do it in all the Assassin's Creed games. I do it in Skyrim. Yeah, yeah. I didn't touch the main story in Skyrim. I went around and did everything in the world that I could find. I maxed
Huh.
out like my blacksmithing like as soon as possible. I like to do everything, and I do it in all the like Assassin's Creed games. Like, I go get all the viewpoints, I do all the side quests, I do as much as possible before ever touching the main story. And then when I do finally get to the main story, it's like I'm going through and I'm like, I'm a literal god at this point. Like, I have the best equipment, I have the best gear, I'm maxed out. You can't touch me.
See, I don't like that.
Oh, I do. I love it. I love being overpowered. It's great.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like that, unfortunately. So,
But I don't know. Different ways to play games, I guess. I just don't understand the mindset of doing the main story and nothing else.
I mean, I think I understand it both ways, but you know, I think that, man, it really does depend on the game, because I was trying to think of a good example, but I could think of examples all like all different ways. So I think I'm probably not a good case study to help.
Yeah.
That's okay. Have you are you caught up? I might not be caught up if let me check. Hold on. Are you mostly caught up on Sign of Affection? Because I am
No,
screaming,
I'm not.
crying. Oh my god, how far behind are you? One episode?
I don't know. I don't even
Oh
remember.
my god. Okay, I was literally screaming and like kicking my feet these last couple of episodes. I was like, "Oh my god, it's so cute," and I just want to cry because they're like, uh, I just love these characters so much. Anyways,
I
that was all I know.
I will make sure to catch up before the next anime podcast that we do
Uh,
on
sounds
everything.
sounds like a good idea. Um, I you still haven't watched Solo Leveling, huh?
Nope. No.
Uh,
I got no time. I got no time. I'm over here deepening my relationship with Tifa.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so I just looked just to double check. I am one episode behind on Sign of Affection. Episode 9 just aired. So I've watched through episode 8. And you guys, kicking, screaming, throwing up. I love it. I'm also one episode behind on Solo Leveling. That show, incredible. But they did do like literally, they did, which is fine. They did a recap episode already. It was 7.5. And I was like, all right, well, I'm out.
Speaking of recaps, Final Fantasy, they have a the story so far recap section at the main menu,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm like, I think more games should do this because I'm like the amount of people who don't remember anything that happened in a previous game, which is crazy to me. But I know there's people out there that just can't remember.
You know what I love is when books do that.
No, see, I skip that immediately.
But you can, that's what I'm saying, right? Is like you can skip that. But if you don't, if it's been a long time since you read the book previous, whether it was like the first book, second book, whatever number you're on, like as long as it's like in a little recap section and you can skip it, like who cares?
Me, because I was like, you could have used those pages for more new content.
I don't think it affects the number of pages that get printed.
You don't know though. It might.
No, because however much they write is however much they write. Kyle's like, get rid of editors so that way there's as much words as possible.
No, sometimes people really just drag on their descriptions and sentences, and I'm like, all right, let's move this. I get it.
Do you ever find yourself spacing out while reading and then you're like, whoa, what happened?
No, if I find myself spacing out while reading or like playing the game or watching anything, I either pause or I stop doing that because I'm clearly not focused or in the mindset to be engaged in that medium right now.
Yeah. Sometimes, I
Um,
mean, sometimes I'll stop, but for the most part, it's just like an adjustment thing where it's like I will be going through the motions of reading, so my eyes will be following the words, and then all of a sudden, like you snap back into reality. You're like, whoa,
I've
okay,
done
I gotta go
that.
back.
I've done that in games sometimes where there'll be like the dialogue will be popping up on the screen and I'll be like reading it, but like I'll get to the end, I'll be like, I don't know what happened. Like what just happened?
Yeah.
And then I'll have to try to find that like specific scene on YouTube from the game. And I'll be like, I don't know, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I
But
totally get it. I I do that all the time. Okay, well, I will say my update besides I actually haven't played Death Stranding at all this week. I have convinced my dad to start playing Outer Wilds. Um, so he started playing that. I don't know if he'll finish playing it. He's still trying to get used to it. He doesn't really play first person because it makes him sick. But when he gets motion sick, he doesn't get like sick to his stomach. He gets a headache, which is really weird to me. Never heard of that. But He played it for like an hour or so, and he's just confused right now, which is understandable. The beginning of the game is incredibly confusing. Um, and other than that, I haven't had really any interactions with video games. I've been reading. I'm now at, I want to say 23 books read for the year. It might be 24. But
Nice.
yeah, and that does, I have to say this because I know that you and I both read manga. This does not include the manga that I've read because I can't count that towards my yearly reading goal anymore.
I disagree, but
So let's see. I am at 24 books.
nice.
So
That's a
my
good
goal for the
pace.
year was 50. So I think I might.
We're 3 months in. You'll be done by June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless I keep going at the pace that I did last week. I think I read 4 books last week. So
I'm just really curious what Kevin's pace for games is going to be this year.
yeah. Do you think that it's a good competition, a 1-to-1 books versus games? So I should try and read more than he plays games.
I don't know. I think it depends. I think you can finish a book much quicker than you can finish a game.
You can, but I think that books can also be longer than games. I think it depends on how long the game is and how long the book is.
Yeah. So, um, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay. Okay.
We will have to see.
Okay. Well, let's head over into the news. I will let you take over this first news story, but just to tie it to the opening, this is the story about over 6,000. So take it away.
Yeah, so some bad news, continuing with the layoffs that have been happening in the game industry. Sony will be laying off 900 people across its video game division worldwide, which is about 8% of its employees. It's going to close its London studio. They said after careful consideration and many leadership discussions over several months, it has become clear changes need to be made to continue to grow the business and develop the community, Jim Ryan wrote. So, head of PlayStation Studios, Herman Hulse, said in a separate note that the company has decided to cancel several of its games in development as well. Sometimes great ideas don't become great games. Sometimes a project is started with the best intentions before shifts within the market or industry result in a change of plan. I can only assume he's talking about the decision for Naughty Dog to cancel The Last of Us multiplayer and the cancellation of the Twisted Metal live service game.
There's also a Spider-Man multiplayer game that got canceled.
Yes. And then Sony said the layoffs will impact game makers Insomniac, Naughty Dog, and Guerrilla. Guerrilla is getting cut by 10% of its staff, which is roughly 40 employees. According to people familiar with the matter, Sony's London studio, best known for SingStar, will also be shut down. This means more than 6,000, I think it's actually higher than that now, have lost their jobs this year, and we're only 3 months in. This comes from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. So, I can't say I'm surprised about London studio. They haven't done anything for a while. And I think if there was a studio to close, London was going to be the one, that or Media Molecule. But I don't think Media Molecule will be closed because I think they fear the backlash due to the fact of how many like awards Media Molecules won in the past. So I think they're going to give them a bit more time. I don't think it's surprising that there's more leaks because it was in the Insomniac leak that they were thinking about it. I am a little confused as to how Insomniac, which has carried the PlayStation brand on its back since the PS5 launched, is part of the cuts. I thought they would have some more job security. And then Gorilla is supposed to be making multiple things, so I don't know why they're getting cut either. But that's business, I guess. What are your thoughts?
I think so from a just like a consumer perspective, I think that this is really incredibly sad to know that so many people in the games industry have lost their jobs. And it seems to be that it doesn't matter how successful, because Insomniac, Naughty Dog, and Guerrilla Games are some of the most successful studios across the industry, right? Like, I think that even ignoring like the label of PlayStation, Insomniac especially is like one of the most successful studios. Um, and I think that uh, I think it's really sad to see that all these people lose their jobs. Um, and I do think, like I've said this before on the podcast, and I will probably say it again, but I really think that the games industry needs to unionize. And I think that this is all of the layoffs we're seeing this year are an example of exactly why the industry needs to unionize. I will point out that the voice actors have their own guild, um, and they have their own union thing, so it's not including them, but everybody else does not have a union. So
I saw IGN just unionized too, or they were trying to, or something. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with that. I do think a lot of the layoffs, besides the ones coming from Embracer, which have just been bad management as like an overall company, that spent way too much money when there was no interest rates during like COVID and stuff. I think a lot of it is people expected, for some unknown reason, the continuation of all these people playing games when they were trapped in their home to continue, and that obviously wasn't going to be the case. I think there are people that still play games because they got into it during that time, but I don't think they play the same amount because they have to go back to work, they have to do other things. And so I think a lot of companies made very bad bets in expanding when they should have played it safe and just kept their sizes the same. And I think that would have given a lot more people better job security. And, a part of me wants to be cynical and say that some of these cuts are just companies getting rid of some people they've wanted to get rid of, but haven't had an excuse to get rid of them, in just in like the same wave of, oh, we don't need you anymore, we also don't need you, but we wanted to get rid of you, we just didn't have an excuse. So I don't know. I don't think it's gonna stop. I know it's not gonna stop. Embracer selling off studios. I imagine there's gonna be some more cuts from some other big names. And then I would hope that a lot of these people can get together and maybe form new studios or get some funding that way. It really sucks for the people that like moved their families to like be closer to these studios that weren't doing like remote work for these places. But I don't know. I don't have an economic solution because I can't overhaul the entire economy, especially the games industry. But I think that the people at the top who made these bad bets, their heads should roll before some of these other people,
yeah,
because
that's
there's a
the
lot of
thing though. Like,
mismanagement.
that I really think that a lot of this is corporate greed, because you don't see these higher ups taking pay cuts in order to help with this like monetary deficit that they've that they're like citing, like, hey, we just like
You did it,
there's just
Nintendo.
the funds, right?
The president of Nintendo did. He
Oh,
took
I
the
love that.
pay cut. He's still, obviously still making millions of dollars.
Right.
But in like solidarity with the other people, he took the pay cut or whatever.
Yeah, I think we need to see that more, because I guarantee so many people would be able to keep their jobs if they just gave themselves a pay cut, but they don't, because they're greedy.
And we also need to do something about the rising budgets of games. Games cannot continue to cost $250 million to make. if they want this industry to be sustainable, because you're going to reach a breaking point where games can't keep rising up in cost and being like, oh, this game costs $500 million. Looking at you, Grand Theft Auto. And then we're gonna bulk up so we can crunch and get it done, and then everyone afterwards is gonna be laid off or like fired or whatever.
Yeah, I mean
Like
that behavior is that that is normal behavior for the games industry. That's not just like high-end studios or like high budget studios. That's like a repeat behavior that
it's
continuously
just
happens, and that's part
yeah,
of
but
why the industry needs to unionize.
yeah,
Is you finish a game and then you're laid off. And then you
hmm
finish a game and then you're laid off.
hmm and
It's awful.
the cost of making games combined with the people who want to make them combined with the layoffs will lead to a discouragement to get into the industry, which will lead to just people either laying off or bad games, or games that take 8 years to make and never come out and then get tax write-offs and the studio gets closed.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's interesting to see what's going to happen. I don't think it's a good look for Sony to be reporting record-breaking, you know, year over year sales of consoles and games and users, and then laying off everybody. It's not a good look.
Yep, I don't think it's a good look either. The other thing that I wanted to say, like so coming at this from like the perspective of somebody wanting to get into the industry, I can't say how incredibly disheartening it is to see that there are 6,000 people plus that have now lost their job and they're all looking for a job in the industry now. I'm sure a lot of them will like end up making their own studios and stuff like that, but I don't even think that that will account for 1,000 of these people. So if there's 6,000 people that have already had experience in the industry that are out of jobs, what are people that are wanting to get into the industry, whether it's like somebody that's graduated a while ago like me or people that are getting ready to graduate this year or next year, like what are we supposed to do? And there's not like a good answer, there's not like an answer, but like I just think that it's so disheartening, you know.
I will say it is it's like almost it's odd to see what is happening in like the US and then more of like the Western sphere,
Mhm.
um, with everyone laying off. Because if you look in like Korea, um, some places in Japan, places in China, like they're hiring a lot of people for game positions and in game studios. And I don't know if it's just because those are like more not Japan, but like China and Korea and India and all these places, they're more like emerging markets for video games. So I don't know if they just haven't reached that point yet. But I think I uh, I mean they just people need to have better management at the top to understand that you don't need 100, 200 people to make one game. You don't need it to cost $300 million. It doesn't need to take 8 years to get a return on investment. Make smaller, shorter games. Like that's what Sony during the PlayStation 3 era did, and that's what was successful for them. I don't know. I mean, Sean Layden warned everyone about it years ago that it was getting out of control with the massive open world games that are 80 hours long and cost a ridiculous amount to make. So I think people need to listen, and I think game studios need to realize that there's a difference between doing something ambitious and creative and doing something that will lead to financial success, and you need to find like a middle ground.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um yeah, I I think that this is, yeah, we've already said it, but man, this sucks. So, okay.
You I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say you got any good news, but the next story is also not good news.
The next story is also bad news. After the bad news is over, there will be some good news. We just have to get past just got to get past that part. Okay, buckle in, y'all, because this is a longer story. I apologize. Um, Okay, so PlayStation Studio Firesprite is currently under investigation due to allegations of a toxic workplace culture, an investigation which began before Sony's announcement of the layoffs. Firesprite announced job cuts earlier this week as part of the widespread layoff across SIE. While it is not clear how many Firesprite employees have been affected, Bloomberg has reported that the company's live service Twisted Metal project was canceled due to these layoffs. Ahead of these layoffs, sources say an alarming number of employees had left the studio in recent months following a retention bonus payout in October. Firesprite was acquired by Sony in 2020. In 2021. While this takeover was initially received with cautious optimism by many employees, all but one of Firesprite's original founders have since left the company. Quote, the last of what made Firesprite good, a good place to work, went with them, end quote, one source told Eurogamer. Um, the reasons behind the founder's departure are unclear, but there have been speculation internally that the founders were forced out by Sony. For example, the sudden departure of former studio head Grammy Anchors, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, in May was described as by one source as simply unbelievable, as based on recent all-company meetings, he appeared to be planning for the studio's long-term future. New leadership from Sony support studio XDev took over, but their management style has been described as toxic by some employees. One source said, quote, it seems leadership doesn't need to be earned and trust is gone, end quote. Another described them as an inadequate toxic mess, tyrants and bullies who treat people like it's a factory. An internal investigation was launched after around 13 grievances complaints were filed against two ex-dev leaders alleging sexual discrimination and ageism. Although Sony reportedly dismissed these complaints as a misunderstanding, some of those involved pursued legal action and eventually received financial payout from Sony. The issue was further complicated by the consolidation of several projects due to the acquisition, adding pressure on project leads and leading to some staff being reassigned to projects they were not interested in. Furthermore, a hiring freeze from Sony hindered efforts to recruit talent, leading to frustration amongst the workers. Quote, Sony has committed the worst possible mistake in buying a studio and meddling to the point where it may end up in a death spiral and unable to complete any of the projects it's working on, end quote, said one source. On Horizon specifically, sources say that there was also pressure from Horizon Zero Dawn creator Guerrilla, which was protective of its franchise and characters being used by another studio. The heat was on Firesprite to make Call of the Mountain a high-quality PSVR 2 system seller and meet its fixed date as a launch title. The project team doubled in 3 months, but this changed its dynamic, and sources say it was difficult to integrate the newcomers. Quote, there's a lot of pressure on the team, not only to deliver a game, but switch platforms and systems, onboard new people. The scope wasn't going to change, the quality wasn't going to change, and the end date wasn't going to change, end quote. That's from another source. As a result, Horizon suffered crunch to hit its release date. Meanwhile, other projects failed to progress as a result, leaving staff frustrated. Another source said, quote, it's really hard to capture the nuance of the situation. It was coming to work every day and feeling like you're tired when you get up. It's not just burnout, it's stress. It's people feeling unsupported, end quote. This is from Ed Nightingale at Eurogamer. So, yeah. I would, based on, especially since some people have received financial payout from Sony, it seems like these allegations do have some weight behind them. And I think you could make the argument like, oh, they just didn't want to deal with the drama, but I disagree. Typically, like a huge corporation that has a lot of money and a lot of lawyers will fight to the death over stuff like this so that they don't have to waste money, quote unquote. But yeah, I just don't think that I don't think that this is a good look. And I think that there's a lot more in here. I would definitely recommend going to read the article, but there's a lot of information about these ex-dev people that came in. So basically, the gist of the situation is what it's looking like is Sony forced leadership out of Firesprite, then replaced them with their own leaders that they took from ex-dev to take over those leadership spots. And those leaders are toxic and don't know how to run the studio.
Yeah. There's a lot here. So
Yes, there is.
let me back up for a sec. All right, I'm gonna break it down by like each part of this because I have thoughts on a lot of it.
Okay.
1, why did you cancel a Twisted Metal game? The Twisted Metal TV show, while not perfect, was enjoyable and is getting a second season and broke records on Peacock. It is clearly something that they are investing in, and I think you missed an opportunity to bring new people into a franchise and revitalize a franchise. One that dates back to the like original PlayStation. So I think that's a mistake. Whether it had to be live service or not, I don't think it should have been. Just make a Twisted Metal game. The next thing is, I am not surprised if what happened with Firesprite is that Sony forced people out and basically took over the company. And I say that because if you look at the Bungie situation currently happening, they are in a potential similar situation where if the final shape for Destiny 2 does not meet projections and they fail to deliver, Sony will gain control of the Bungie board. They will be in control of Bungie, which means once again, you've paid people for retention. You bought this studio because you believed in their like qualities that they bring to certain aspects of your business, and now you're going to force out the leadership and put your own people in charge. If that's happening at Bungie, which is much bigger than Firesprite, I very much believe that it happened at Firesprite. So if all the heads of the studio that were planning like for the future leaving, like they saw the writing on the wall. I think they were probably forced out, and they probably just were like, yeah, this is not the direction that I want the studio to go. I'm leaving.
Yeah. I will say that, like, as far as like the acquisition stuff, like the crazy thing about Firesprite is, so Firesprite is actually, so there was another PlayStation studio, I can't remember the name of it right now, that the majority of that studio became Firesprite after that studio was closed by PlayStation.
Yeah.
So if that happens again, how crazy would that be that they had the studio that they closed, that made a new studio that they then acquired again, and then they're going to close it again? Not that they're saying that they're closing it, but like if this place is really so toxic and it's in a death spiral, as like some sources are saying, like doesn't seem like they have long.
I would say that they're probably next on the chopping block to be closed.
That's just so sad.
And as for putting in their own leadership from XDev and how those people manage the company, I don't know. I wasn't there. I will say that a lot of the time, if there's payouts and there's, if there's smoke, there's probably fire. And 13 grievance complaints, there's probably something that should be looked at. So
do you think those 13 people are the ones that are going to get laid off? That's the percentage.
No, they would open themselves to even more lawsuits if that was the case. But I, definitely look at it. As for the Horizon game, so it was a launch title for PSVR 2. PSVR 2 is basically dead. No one talks about it. No one seems to care about it. The Horizon game, I don't know if you've looked at the trophies of it. No one played it, basically. And it didn't look great. It looked like a worse Link's crossbow training for the Wii. And
I have a feeling that Sam would argue with you. But
well, Sam can argue all he wants. The sales of PlayStation VR 2 are abysmal. And they've basically shown that they're giving up on it because they're going to start offering PC support for it. Because PC is the only way this is going to find any sort of market, and even then, it's still going to be super. It's going to still be a niche within a niche because VR is already small as it is. It's a fun little side hobby. It is not replacing traditional gaming anytime soon. I'm sorry to break it to people who are big VR fans. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
And I think if it was happening, Sony would talk about it more. Sony would
Mm.
give it more support. They just don't. They are fulfilling
Can you
contractual
imagine if they
obligations.
committed like one of their bigger studios to
Oh,
PlayStation
well,
VR 2?
I mean, that's what they needed to do to make it a success and a big deal. They needed to be like, hey, Naughty Dog's new game, like their new first person game, is a VR title. Like you have to like play it with PlayStation VR 2, and it needed to look like not as good as like The Last of Us, but it needed to look like a high quality game. Instead, you get games that either range from it looks nice but isn't that like super interactive, or it looks like a GameCube title was ported.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know. You know, I am not surprised that Gorilla is protective of their IP. I think you will
Yeah, I
always
think
run
that that's
that
probably the
risk.
least surprising thing in this
Yeah.
is like,
I,
of course you're like
yeah.
protective of your child. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Um, and I don't and they talk about the crunch and how they doubled in size. You know, like I believe it. I don't think it helped the game at all. I don't think they would have hurt the game if they had just delayed it. But when they say there's nuance to this whole situation, to me, the nuance is that a lot of people are complaining that this place is not a fun place to work, and it's because of Sony and who they put in charge,
mm-hmm.
and everyone who made it what it was is leaving. I don't know. This screams to me, hey, we're probably not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah, that's crazy and sad.
Yep.
I just, yeah, I think that the thing that like really like gave me such an ick is like the whole thing where it's like, hey, like you need to make this game. You can't compromise quality. We can't move the date. Like and we're not doing anything like to help you basically. Like can you imagine being in that situation as a worker where you're like, "Hey, you know, like with all of these new people, we kind of need help. Can you please push the date out a little bit?" And they're like, "Nope." And they're like, "Okay, well, can we lower, like, can we change the scope of the game to try and help?" Nope. Okay, well, can we change the quality? Like, can you imagine like those conversations that happened in meetings and
Yeah.
how disheartening that would be to be like, "Hey, we're not helping you in any way, and you're still going to deliver because we're forcing you to."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that must have been
I
extremely disheartening.
that is that is rough. Well, I mean,
Okay.
we'll see what happens.
Yep. You ready for the next one?
Sure, it's the fun PlayStation Plus lineup for March. So all these games will be playable on March 5th. You have EA Sports
It's in the game.
F1 23 for PS4 and PS5. I don't know what this game is.
Me neither.
Is it the racing one?
If you click
Sifu.
on the link, here, I'll look. Yeah, it's racing.
Okay, I didn't even know EA Sports made a racing game. Sifu for PS4, PS5. Hello Neighbor 2 for PS4, PS5. Destiny 2, the Witch Queen expansion for PS4, PS5. I do believe you need to have the Destiny 2 base game installed and everything.
I think
Um,
that's part of the catalog, or was at one point.
I imagine it's part of it.
It was
And this
somewhere.
comes from Adam Michael on the PlayStation blog.
I will say, just because I know that if Stan was here, he would be saying it. Play Sifu.
Yeah, he really likes
Um,
Sifu.
he really loves Sifu a lot. I tried Sifu personally. I had a really hard time with it. It's an incredibly made game. It's like one of those games where it's like the art is like the art style is incredible. It's a beautiful game. I can tell that the mechanics are just like tight. Like they're great mechanics. I can tell that this game is great, but I just like my skill level with fighting games is basically 0. And so as hard as I tried to play this game, I just like literally couldn't because I was like really bad at it. Like abysmally bad. So I will say that this game does seem like an incredible game. However, I was not able to get very far because I'm terrible at games.
Yeah. I'm not going to play any of these.
Yeah.
I never have, and I'm not going to start. So.
What, you mean that EA Sports F123 isn't
Didn't even know it
there?
existed, so I can't imagine that's a good sign. I don't know.
Well, I will say I do think that this is a decent lineup. I definitely don't think this is the best month that we've seen by
Oh, it's
far.
not a
But
bad month.
I do think that it's like a decent lineup, just not games that we're gonna play.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Sure.
Okay, so The Last of Us Season 2 has added 4 new cast members. So we have Danny Ramirez, who's from Top Gun Maverick and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm watching that right now, which is weird. Will play Manny, described as a loyal soldier whose sunny outlook belies the pain of old wounds and a fear that he will fail his friends when they need him most. Very poetic. Ariella Bearer, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. From How to Blow Up a Pipeline and Runaways, will play Mel, said to be a young doctor whose commitment to saving lives is challenged by the realities of war and tribalism. Tati Gabrielle, from You and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, has been cast as Nora, a military medic struggling to come to terms with the sins of her past. And Spencer Lord from Riverdale and Family Law will appear as Owen, a gentle soul trapped in a warrior's body, condemned to fight an enemy he refuses to hate. These are the 4 castings from the season 2 of The Last of Us. Aside from returning stars Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey as Ellie, the new season will also feature Isabella Merced as Dina, Young Mazzino as Jesse, and Caitlin Dever as Abby. We've already discussed those. Catherine O'Hara was also recently cast, but her role has been her role is undisclosed. Don't know who these people are, to be honest, but yeah. Oh, this is from Joe Otterson at Variety. I don't know who these people are, but I'm excited to see more casting. Means that we're getting closer to seeing it. I'm assuming we'll see this sometime in 2025, probably late 2025 would be my guess. But
2025 is the projected date, I believe.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I assume these people are cool.
I'm probably the worst person to have on to talk about The Last of Us 2 because I hate it.
I never finished it, but that's okay. I will say I'm still on the hype train with Caitlin Dever. Not necessarily as Abby. I think that she will play a good Abby, but man, the movie that she did with Hulu is incredible. Did you see that movie?
Man, I hope she puts her DMs on like closed or like privates or stuff for a little bit.
Oh yeah, she'll have to. She's gonna
playing as Abby. She's
Yeah, no spoilers, but yeah, she's gonna have a hard time. Okay, yeah. So the movie is called No One Will Save You. It's on Hulu. I've already talked about this on the podcast, but I want to talk about it again because I think that movie was so incredible, and I think that her performance in the movie was so incredible. Highly recommend it. So that's my
cool. You want to talk about Remedy?
I do, and I need you to read this first line word for word for me because I worked very hard on it. Okay,
Remedy has acquired full control from 505 Games for 17 million euros.
Good pun.
What?
Okay.
Thomas Puha, the communications director at Remedy, stated that they are exploring our options on Condor and Control 2 when it comes to publishing partners and financing these games. So the Remedy CEO, Tero Virtala, said, as part of Remedy's long-term strategy to have more ownership over business and the IPs we have created, we have gotten back all rights for Control and the in-development Condor and Control 2. Having complete ownership over the Control franchise gives the freedom to decide the best path forward. We will consider our options carefully, knowing that Control is considered an attractive franchise by many partners. Condor and Control 2 have both progressed well in recent months, and we expect these projects to reach their development stages during the first half of 2024. The development of Condor and Control 2 will continue normally when we consider the best publishing, distribution, and financing model for these projects. So this is from Christopher Dring at gamesindustry.biz. And congrats. I think they own all their IP now because they got back Alan Wake and now they have full control of Control. And good for them. That's a cheap price to pay, I think, considering how much money they made recently. So good for them. Always in favor of people who create the things, owning the things they create. I never want to see IP stuck in limbo because they're stuck with publishers that don't want to do anything with them. So I think this is for the best for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I also think that I just want to be honest and say I have no idea what Condor is. Like I have no concept.
I'm pretty sure it's a code name for a new game.
Let's look. Remedy, Condor. Oh, I also wanted to point out, so they did mention that they had like the purchase and like separation was amicable with like 505 games. Like there wasn't any like bad blood or anything. Like they just wanted to own their it is a code name.
Yeah.
Delays caused by house shifts do not count towards overtime. Right, that's what it says on their website.
Interesting.
It says related titles are Control and Control 2. So my guess is that it would be some sort of in-field, like recovering, like the whatever they're called, the things from Control, the weird things. That would be my guess, but I don't actually know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Good. It's a good positive story. Good for Remedy.
Yep. Congrats, Remedy. Did you like my pun?
Yeah. All right. Finish us out.
Finish him. Okay, sorry. Let me get the time code. Okay, Sony Interactive Entertainment is introducing passkeys as an alternative to passwords for its PlayStation community. Passkeys are digital credentials that are automatically generated using cryptography, allowing users to log in to platforms and devices without a password. This new feature aims to balance convenience and security, providing a more secure and seamless signing experience. The passkeys adhere to FIDO standards, which is Fast Identity Online, and are supported by major platforms and devices. This is information coming from the Sony Interactive Entertainment blog.
Congrats, you got something that most other places have had for like forever. This is not new technology.
Yeah, I really don't know what to say about this because it's like this is something that it looks like Xbox has had for forever.
They have their own authenticator. Anytime you sign into your Microsoft account, it sends you either a code or it sends you an approval request. Nintendo has it for Switch for their two-factor authentication. Through Google has it. It's just another way to do that. I mean, cool. More online security is always nice, but at the same time, just don't put your password into shady places and you'll probably be fine.
Yeah. But dude, my favorite thing ever is that my dad's girlfriend fell for a scam. Like almost. Like she like clicked on it and she like clicked on this random link and she's like, do I put my stuff in? And I was like, Rosa.
Oh, the amount of people that I've worked with that are like, above a certain age that get those text messages that are like, hey, your package is here or here. Your Netflix password has been hacked. Click this. And then they like click on it. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? They're like, well, why would they send me this? I'm like, why? I'm like, well, obviously they're going to send it to you. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's so silly.
Yeah,
I don't have anything to say about this. I do. I did think not that this is Insomniac's fault, but I did think it was slightly ironic that one of the images, like the main things that are featured in the video for Passkey, is a bunch of stuff from Spider-Man.
That is funny.
I did think that was mildly ironic, so awkward for everybody
Yeah.
involved.
What's next?
What's next in the show
Yeah.
or in life?
I don't know. Probably the show. Let's do the show.
We're basically done. So at this point, if you want, we can do one of our
Don't we have listener questions?
I did not ask for listener questions. I don't know.
Oh.
Hold on. I know we've done some of these. Let me look. We're seeing some. We've done that one before for sure. We've done all of these. Yeah, we've done all of these listener questions. So we can go to limitless, meaning we can talk about whatever we want. The only one that I think might be slightly relevant is either the first or the last one. I'm okay to talk to either.
What video game do you think could best be adapted? Well, I've never.
Do you want to do the first one or the last one? I haven't either.
I'll do the last one, I guess.
Okay. So what video game do you think would be best adapted to a movie that has not been adapted to a TV show yet? I did not write this.
What video game adapted into a movie?
I'm gonna say movie or TV show that hasn't been adapted yet.
Okay. It hasn't been adapted yet. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Gears of War.
Okay. Reasoning being, is there really? I thought it was just a bunch of bros shooting a bunch of things. Is there a story there?
Yeah, there's a great story there. It's a very touching story too. There's some personal issues and there's a bigger conflict. I know Dave Bautista has wanted to play Marcus Phoenix for like forever. So just do it. Just give me the Gears of War. That's my answer.
Fair enough. Okay. Solid answer. I will go with, because I think we've talked about this, not this exact topic here, but I do just want to mention it because I know that it's been mentioned before and I still feel very strongly about this. I think Apple doing a Returnal TV show would be incredible. Please. I don't have a lot of money, but I'll give you my $3 that I have. I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, but they should do what Haruhi did and just make the same episode like 8 times in a row and then slightly alter things in them. You know, then you don't even need a big budget.
I think that could be like, oh, so my thing is my guess would be the first episode. This is just a guess. First episode, we've got like 50-minute episode, something like that. The first episode, we have this really interesting thing where you're like, what is going on? Like you're seeing like this, like these dead bodies. And then towards the end, you see Celine's dead body and you're like, what the heck? And then at some point in the like at the very end of the episode, she dies and loops. And then you're like, what's going on? And that's the end of the first episode. And then I think after that, it'll probably be like 2 episodes and then she loops again, or, 3 episodes or whatever. Like, I don't think they'll be looping every single episode. Anyways, I just think that this show would be so incredible because there's so much interesting story to be had in Returnal. And I think that the world is such an interesting, like they created such an interesting environment, especially since the environment's constantly changing. I just think it'd be such an interesting show. My real answer that I will literally I will do all of the work needed that I can. But man, I want a Bloodborne show. I think that a Bloodborne TV show would be so incredible. And I think that it could be like a companion to the game rather than like a retelling of the game. And I'm very passionate about this. I could go on about this for a very long time, but I think that like doing something, because as anybody that has like kind of played Bloodborne even a little bit knows, like there's something called the Hunter's Dream, right? And I think that like kind of exploring like the whole concept of like this world being like a dream world would be so interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. None.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm I really love any of the FromSoft games. I don't think that they lend themselves well to TV, but I think that like Bloodborne would probably be the best, and I would love it so much. I would love it so much, you guys. Okay, I did. Okay, this is tangential, but I was so upset by this. So somebody did like they compiled a bunch of lore and did this like huge like these books that are like essays, like talking about the lore. I think it's Bloodborne that it is. Dude, I was like, I got this ad for these books on Instagram, and I was like, I will pay for these books. I don't care. This is cool because it's like a scholar, like person, like doing all this analysis stuff, whatever. I go to look and see how much it is, $150 for these two books, and I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely, I'm not saying that they're not worth it. I'm saying I absolutely will not be paying that much for these books because that is crazy. That is crazy.
Would it surprise you to know that I've paid more than that for one book?
No, and I don't even judge you.
That, especially books that go out of print, like, it's frustrating.
Oh, trust me, I know the out of print thing. I don't think I ever updated, but I think last year talked about like how one of the books I was looking for was out of print. They did another print of it, and so I ended up getting
Good.
it. So we're all good.
Good. This is an issue with games too, but I don't think there's a solution. You can't just you can't just make things forever. Doesn't make any sense.
No, you can't, but it's also really I think the thing that really sucks is, so one of the things that I think is unique about both Kyle and I is that like so Kyle reads GL and I read BL, and I think that both of those industries are big but not quite big enough to justify printing a bunch of copies of these books. And I think that that's like the biggest issue, right? Is that like we're reading like these niche books, and the fact that it's translated is already shocking, let
Or
alone being
even
translated and printed in English. Those things don't happen very often with a lot of these like books because they're like coming from Japan and stuff. So I understand why the printing is limited, but it's still incredibly frustrating to have like a bunch of people looking for copies of this book, and so you're like fighting over.
yeah.
Annoying.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Well, there is your anime lecture for the day. Anime/manga lecture for the day. Anything else you need to say, or should we head out?
Yeah, let me finish that on. Sony, stop censoring things. This is I'm bringing this up because the Neptunia games are getting a port to Nintendo Switch, but they're not getting a port to PS4, and it's specifically because the older ones have some not so friendly things that I assume would be censored, and so they're just not going to port them. Stop it. Stop censoring things. I don't like it. Just it's a game.
PlayStation, you knock it off and think about what you did.
Do better, Sony.
Dude, my new favorite.
I can see what's his name, Jin Sakai or
Jin
whatever.
Sakai.
Yeah, I can see his ass, but I can't see.
I was just thinking about that this morning. I'm so serious too, because I was like thinking, I was like, I should make a funny video about how like I play games, like not like a video for the internet, just a video for friends, and post it on my Snapchat or whatever. It's like, this is why I play games, and like post, because you can see what's his face's butt in Death Stranding too. And then I was like, oh, I could also I could re-download Shiva and go see his butt again. I gasped when I first saw it. The gasp I gasped. I was like, oh my god. Butts in video games.
No limits.
Hey, I see what you did there. All right.
Cut the
Well,
feed.
thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can find us on YouTube at Save the Game Media, Twitter/X at Save Game Media. I'm sorry. Patreon at Save the Game Media as well. We also have a Discord if you want to come hang out. Links are in the description. All that fun stuff. Where can people find you?
In the Discord.
Cool. You can find me at
Taking a nap.
Fabulous Breanna, FIBULISTBREANNA. And until next time, thanks for hanging out, guys. Bye.
Bye.